Alright, so I made a tutorial on how to draw in grease pencil, and it looks like that got some views, and I made a post if I should make low poly or grease pencil tutorials, and most of you wanted grease pencil, so tutorial time. So this is gonna be an animation tutorial today. If you don't have Blender on Steam, I would highly recommend getting it on Steam. You can see how many hours you've been on Blender, so you can use this on your CV if you're gonna work professionally with this. And you also get the updates automatically. Go to File, New, to the animation. If you haven't seen the setup video I made, I would recommend you go into that video, because then you will get almost the same viewport as I have here, and also the same settings as me. So I'm gonna go a bit faster in this tutorial, so if you haven't checked out the setup video, be sure to check that out one first. I recommend saving your project right at the start. So today we're going to animate a little jump. First thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a little character. As I talked about in the last video, we have 3 layers: lines, fill, and reference. So I'm going to start drawing on the reference layer, and I'm also going to animate on the reference layer first, and then I will draw the lines and then fill it in. The reference layer doesn't have to be exact, you can just make the movement here and draw it more nicely on the lines layer. This character is very simple, but I'm not going to go into anatomy and stuff like that today. I'm just gonna show you the animation process and some tips along the way. These lines here shows where the character is looking. In this case, he's looking out here. If he were to look upwards, he would look like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the main poses first, then I will draw poses between those again until it looks smooth. For a jump, the first pose is this one, where he's just standing on the ground. The next pose is when he goes down a bit. The next pose after that is where he's in the air, and the final pose is the same as this one, where he lands. I like to go about 9 frames forward or something like that. It doesn't really matter because this is keyframes. You can always move them later. What I like to do though is here we have a start and end frame. So this is where the animation will start and this is where it will end. This is 250 frames long, and if we look on the render here, if we go on the output here, you can see the frame rate is 25 frames per second. That makes this a 10-second long video. You can always increase this or decrease it. I'm gonna decrease it a bit to about 30 frames for now. I recommend zooming in on the timeline here. What I like to do now when I'm going to draw a new pose is I go into edit mode, press A to select everything, and since he's gonna move a bit forward and down, I'm going to rotate him a bit forward and I'm going to move him down a bit. You can see the legs don't match up here, so I'm gonna press B to get this selection tool here, and I'm going to drag over the feet, and I'm going to press X and delete the points. I'm also going to delete the arms. You can see the previous frame here in transparent green. That's called onion skinning, and that's very useful because it shows you the previous and often the next frame. You can choose that in some settings, but the way you enable and disable onion skin is you go up to layer here and you press this button here. And that's how you turn on and off onion skin. You can do that for the rest of the layers as well. I like to turn it off on the fill. He's going to move his arms a bit out. Now is a good time to have the onion skin on, because then you can see the previous frame as I talked about. His knees are going to bend a little. There we have the next pose. And you can see between these two poses, he moves a bit down. As you can see, I drew it a bit too far on the left side. So I'm going to go into edit mode first, select everything. Can move it on the x-axis like this, and that would look okay. In this case it actually does, but what I would also recommend is going to sculpt mode, and then you can press 1 and just move what you want. But I'm not gonna do that now. The next frame is where he's in the air. The arms, the legs, and the head will look a bit different in the next frame. So what I'm going to do is just clear out everything. You do that by pressing Shift I, and it will make a blank new keyframe, as you can see here as well. So I'm just gonna basically draw this figure one more time. I'm trying to make the shapes the same size as the previous frame, because otherwise it would look a bit weird. So I'm using sculpt mode for that, to make it a little bigger. That looks the same, I believe. You can copy a stroke by pressing Shift D and then X to move it on the x-axis, so you don't have to draw it again. Now the arms are gonna go down as well. Now we have that pose, and like I said, the first pose here is going to be when he lands as well. So what you can do to copy a keyframe is you select the first keyframe in this case, and you press Shift D and move it along here. And now we have the basic blocking completed. What we're gonna do now is make some smear frames between these main poses. Now I have added all the frames. Let's look at it. I want to remind you that I've been working with this for a long time, so that's why you might get some weird results at first, but just keep practicing until you feel like it looks good, and it will eventually work in the end. Thank you guys for watching. I know this tutorial might look a bit bad, I don't know, but it's because I'm very new to making tutorials, so that's why it may not be that good. But I hope you enjoyed anyway, and I hope you learned something, and be sure to comment what you want me to do next, and I will see you next time.